Hey, I'm apparently live. Hi, everybody. I didn't schedule this. I just sort of popped in. I am back in my office, if you could tell. And I just wanted to check in. I wanted to try out the new Wi Fi network that we have here to see if it is amenable for streaming content while I'm at the office. That is one of the goals I had, was to stream more content, both this channel, but also on my Tai Chi channel as well. And my next test is to see if I have enough space in here to get in frame so that I could actually live stream some Tai Chi workouts on my Moon Eagle Tai Chi channel. And just kind of check in with you. So I haven't done a live stream on this channel in many months. Probably not since late fall, maybe. Maybe I might have done one in the winter. I might have tried. So this is just a check-in. If you have any questions, you want to chat, you have some requests, I'm also going to be trying to record a new YouTube video, a new healing video for my channel later today, edit that. I don't know if I'll get it up today or tomorrow, but that is sort of the plan. RJ Hodge speaks, hope it is a great day for you. Thanks. I hope so too. It's very good to be back in my office. For those of you who don't know, I was basically working from home for any sort of client work or energy work or spiritual healing work or readings. I was doing all that from my bedroom, which is okay. I can do that, but it feels good to have a space that is dedicated for this work, where the dog is not going to just start barking or getting into something that I have to run off and make sure he doesn't, eat towels or whatever. And it's just nice to just have a space that's just mine, where I can really focus on work and really get my head into what I'm doing. My thoughts on ASMR. I think I've heard of ASMR, but I don't know much about it. Is that where they're doing the, the light patterns to disrupt certain behavioral patterns or PTSD? I think maybe that's what you're talking about, but I'm not, as you can tell, I'm still trying to parse out what that is. So I'm not an expert, so I don't know much about that. I think a lot of us over the past years have been traumatized. I know I have. Lots of tapping and sounds. I experimented briefly with EFT, but I didn't have much guidance with it. And I just really didn't stick with it. It's been hard for me to stick with a lot of extra stuff that is not already in my wheelhouse. I've had a hard time following through and staying motivated the past few months. I know I've talked with other people and they're feeling the exact same way. They're just tired. I have been fully vaccinated, so I have just started to venture out into the world. I had originally planned to travel after getting both of my shots, and was, my waiting period for vaccination effectiveness to, kick in. But, with my journey work and speaking with my personal guides, I've been told to sort of stay put for the next few months. No clarification on that from them. It could be that, hey, there's a variant. Hey, I'm still a little janky and I'm lit up like a Christmas tree on my nervous system. So perhaps a long drive is not the best thing for me to do. And depending on where you are and where you're watching this from, I know that where I live, we've had quite a surge in violence and crime and even murder. And so it might just be a way of my guides trying to keep me safe at home until things calm, until people start to heal from the past year. Because what we've all gone through collectively is quite traumatic. And when I start to get down on myself for, not being up and positive and motivated and gung ho and getting to do things, I have to remember, that I went, it's been over a year since a hug, right? So that does have an effect on your nervous system. It does have effect on your motivation. Um, and there's been a lot of uncertainty. I was for a while uncertain whether I could even keep this office because of my teaching jobs. I went down to just one class a week, and that was a streamed class for one of the community centers. And my other 3 or 4 classes just were gone, and they haven't started back yet, and I'm not sure if they will. So I've had a lot of uncertainty with income, with health insurance, with just anything you can think of. Um, uh, I don't know what the shape of my life and my career is going to be, and a lot of people are having the exact same thing, and some of them on top of that are dealing with the fact that they were ill this last year, that they have medical expenses, that they have lost people that they loved and cared for. I have known some folks that have passed, not specifically from COVID, but I have also lost people in my circle the last year. And I think we're just dealing with a lot of loss, a lot of grief, and our normal coping mechanisms of coming together and receiving support from one another have not been available. And that has been really hard. All right, I see I've got another question here. See, tired. Yeah, I understand you're supposed to be working right now, but you're laying in a recliner. Yeah. One of the nice things about my office is I've got like a zero gravity lounger chair, and I do meditate in that chair. I do journey work in that chair. That's one of the reasons I got it, so I could do deep meditation. But sometimes I just sit back and listen to music where there's just no expectation from anybody. If I don't have someone scheduled, that's okay. It's self work, um, and you know that happens too. So I see we've got a couple other people on the stream. So just type in the comments, say hey. If you've got a question for me, if you've got a request for me, like I said, I'm going to be putting together a healing video later. I do look at comments to get ideas for extra healing videos. After over a decade of doing it, the tap kind of runs dry sometimes, and so I do actually look at what people say they want videos for, unless it's something like super particularly specific that is not going to be beneficial for most people. A lot of times when someone requests that, what they really need is a session. So I have also in the past year been focusing just quite a bit on my Patreon channel, trying to build community there, doing, you know, group healing teleconferences once a month. And then I've got like premium patrons that I'm doing like monthly little mini sessions with, which has been fun for me. Um, and actually, going forward, really, one of the major things I want to do with with my business and my practice is to really grow my patron support, because that really it's very meaningful to me because um, I have a large spiritual community. This is Friday, so I've got my mesa and ceremony, as I do every Friday. I'll get my use my rattle. Get my little rattle. I don't know if that sounds really tinny or how that comes through over the mic, but I do a rattling prayer ceremony every week, and I send prayers out, and I think there's over 100 people on my prayer list at this point, and they are scattered over 6 continents. So I don't have Antarctica on there because I don't know any of the scientists that are staying there. So I would be open to sending prayers out that way if there was a connection. But that is something I have been doing for at least 7 years consistently. And as I talked earlier that I've lost some people. One of the people that I lost in the last year was the woman who inspired me to create that ceremony. Um, so we weren't super close. We'd been in circle together many times. She was in a advanced shamanic training program that I went through, a 2-year program. Uh, and but I was really, I guess, struck by her passing because A, it was unexpected. I, I didn't know that she was ill at the time. And B, because my weekly practice of sending prayers out, thanking all my spiritual connections. My ceremony starts with me, setting up the mesa, or keep. Sometimes it'll just stay closed. It just depends on the day, how I'm feeling, what the energy is like. But setting up the mesa, and then from there, rattling and thanking every one of my spiritual connections, starting with the Creator and the Earth, and then going out from there. And that takes quite a bit because I have a lot of guides and helpers that have been with me and have assisted me in the work that I do for myself and for others. And then a prayer focus that goes out, and I send that to everybody out on the list, to themselves and all their relations. So the person that inspired that passed away. Oh gosh, it was months and months ago, and I was just really struck by that. It really shook me, and I'm sure that that has been the case for many of you who have lost people, even if they weren't directly related to them. Just the absence and the pattern that their lives create, and from being no longer physically present, is very destabilizing. And we've had here in the United States almost 600,000 deaths in the past year, um, just from coronavirus, not counting, just other. So that's a lot. Um, that's almost as much as this civil war at this point. And that lasted 4 years, and this was just 1 year, basically. So it is really hard to overstate how profound an impact that has on societies and on individuals and families. And if you're even remotely, sensitive to energies and emotions, even if you haven't personally lost somebody, you are going to be feeling a lot of stuff from the collective grief, collective trauma, um, collective frustration, and even indecisiveness and uncertainty about the future going forward. One of the things that I have noticed is that after I was vaccinated, I actually felt worse emotionally. I'd been looking forward to it. I guess there was this idea that was going to immediately, life was going to return to somewhat insane. It wasn't really sane before, but a somewhat predictable pattern and routine, and just all of that's been disrupted. And for me, I think it's probably going to end up for the best. It's just the next steps have not appeared for me yet, as far as like, what am I doing? How am I earning a living? How, what is the shape of my life going to be moving forward? And that's the same for a lot of folks. Would I ever do a video to help people contact their spirit guides? I might have done one. Um, I might have done one to opening to guidance, but I could do one to draw in, your primary guides, I suppose. I'll look through my library and see if I've done that, and if not, I will. So thanks for that question and idea, but I will look through my vast library of healing videos at this point. I have to check usually when people ask, so that if I do one that's the same, I'll put part 2. And I don't know how many money miracle videos I've done right now. It's a lot, and I don't really think I need to do any more. we've got a whole playlist of just those. But thank you for that suggestion. I will definitely look into that. So yeah, the reason I haven't done a live stream is because I've been hurting. I've been experiencing, family trauma, personal trauma. One of the things with not being out in the world is that I have had very few distractions from my own crap and from what's not working in my own psyche. I haven't been able to get away from that. So, you know, it's that old saying, wherever you're going, there you are. And it's been that in stereo. So I would like to dispel the illusion that just because I know the energy work that I know the different techniques and meditations that I know, that I do not suffer from the same doubts, fears, and insecurities that everybody else does, because I certainly do, maybe even more so. Let me see, there's another. Oh, okay. So I've done one about sharing energy. Yeah, I will look through that library to make sure that I'm not repeating myself, so that there's something fresh or that there's a fresh perspective. Um, but yeah, so a lot of people have asked me how to get to do what I do, um, and how did I come to do this kind of work? How did I get good at this kind of work? Because actually, I can confidently say, finally, after many years, that I'm pretty good at what I do. Um, if I have a willing client um, who's going to meet me halfway uh, and work with the process, I'm pretty confident that I can, deliver relief. One of the things I was thinking about, how branding ideas. I hate marketing. Uh, I do so little of it. Um, and my guides, I've even asked them, how do I market? And they're like, don't. And I'm like, well, that's great for you. You don't need currency where you live. Um, but I was having like a branding kind of idea. Like, how do I explain what it is I do? Like, what is the core of what I do? And I think one of the core things is like, I relieve suffering. Um, that is what my work is intended to do, is to relieve suffering, to open ways up for people, to help them heal, to help them move forward, but primarily is to relieve suffering, um, which I think is laudable. I think that's a good thing. There's a lot of suffering in the world, and any suffering that we can relieve is a good thing. So, that's kind of, I'm thinking about like how, and it's just for me, just how to describe things, because a lot of times people email me and they're like, well, I don't know which service to order. And, I think I've written the descriptions clearly, but for me, I mean, I've done the work. So it's sort of like, when someone who knows what they're doing writes instructions for somebody else and it's not very clear because they already know what they're doing, um, it's kind of like that. So I have to just, think about it in sort of marketing kind of ways. But not even that, just giving a description for people so that they are, aware and it's easy to access for them. So these are all things I think about. You know, usually when I'm walking the dog, which has been sort of a saving grace over the past year. It's got me out of the house, even when I didn't want to go. Um, Even when it's been super duper cold, I even walked when we had the ice storm, which was really scary. I was terrified of falling on the ice. Um, that's the only time I can walk in snow. I can walk when it's cold, even walk when it's raining if I prep for it. But walking on ice, man, I got to get some of those little spiky things that you strap to the bottom of your shoes, because walking on ice is scary. And I just veered off topic there. You have to see, comments keep me on target. So if you want to see something, and I know this was not a scheduled talk, it was completely. I was like, I'm gonna do this today, and I'm like, before I came in, I was like, oh, I'll make a YouTube thumbnail, because I'm like, I'm trying to be professional, and I'm just gonna get on without announcing it and go for it. So let me think. Where was I going? I'm just spinning out of control, which has been. I should tell you what else I've been doing. I haven't done as much studio work. I'm trying to get back to it, but it's that motivation factor where I'm like, what is the point? You know, what's the point? Almost the galleries I had my work in are closed permanently. Um, and so I'm like, where am I going to put this work? Um, what has been my most beneficial spiritual practice? I would say this weekly practice that I do has been really stabilizing. Also, my physical practice has been really stabilizing. I teach Tai Chi, but I also practice Tai Chi and Qigong, and that has been stabilizing as well. Um, that physical practice. But the other one has been writing. I know anything creative I've done has a spiritual dimension for me. Um, there is something that switches on in my psyche when I am doing creative work, or when I'm doing service work or healing work for others is also really helpful. So when I'm being of service, that is probably one of the best. I know you're looking like specific meditations and exercises, and there's just different ways you can go with that. Um, but the thing I've been consistent in is, I said 7+ years is doing this Friday ceremony. Let me see if I can tilt this down just slightly so open this up and set up for it. And I haven't figured out what the prayer focus is yet today. People always, are on my list and my patrons, and they're shy. I don't mean to bother you, but I was wondering if this is for a prayer request. I'm like, please hit me up for those, because I have to come up with them intuitively myself if nobody asks me, which means more work for me. Um, more thinking and that kind of intensive mental work, which I'm trying to get past. Inner cloth. About, was it 2018, 2019? Time means nothing anymore. It might have been 2018 when I taught my last workshop based on my book, Drumming Down the Runes, Walking 24 Roads, available on Amazon. All those links will be down below when I edit this. Marketing. But I had a different inner cloth, which was bright orange and red tie-dyed. Well, it wasn't, kind of. It wasn't tie-dyed. It had that kind of look to it, but it was done in a different traditional sense. So in Incan Pacha, Pachamama, Earth Mother, is Pa and Cha. Pa, calm, simple, cool. Cha is energetic, vibrant, alive. Well, my outer cloth, if you can tell, has plenty of Cha. Well, my inner cloth with all that bright, fiery energy was also all Cha all the time. All Cha all the time. It's Cha-Cha instead of Pacha. So when I taught my last workshop on my book, one of the participants towards the end of the day, she knocked over one of the candles and it spilled wax all over it. She was so mortified, and I was a little bit too, because it's like, it's really hard to get wax out of cloth. I know people have taught me different, iron it, do this, put it in the freezer. But that only gets you so far. So I resolved to buy a new one. Now this inner cloth, which the only thing about this is it's not as big as my other inner cloth, is much calmer. It's got the deep blue on this side and the red on this side. So we've got that balance and the little rainbows that come through. So it's much more calming, the inner cloth. That's kind of what I need. Now, a lot of these stones are from, this one I've had since I was a child. It's obsidian, found someplace, probably out west. And others were given to me, like I've had 3 of these at least were given to me by my nope, 4. I've got another one in this inner bag that were given to me by a teacher. This one is like one of my really hard working stones. It's my depossession stone. So if you got attachments, this one's going to be doing a lot of work. It's made my job a lot easier. Um, I'm doing a branching pattern here with my stones today. Um, so we'll be interested to see what that is. A lot of them I've just found. Like I found this my last trip when I went up to Minnesota and Ontario as well. Um, this stone, when it's wet, is this lovely deep red color. Um, but sometimes I found stones in parking lots and they end up in my mesa. I don't know if I've answered your question about what I found to be my most beneficial spiritual practice is. I will go through runs of when I will do particular exercises. Kabbalistic cross is a good one. But then, sometimes things get stale. Sometimes things just become rote or become less meaningful because I'm not really fully engaged in the practice. And I think that's important. I think full engagement is really the most important aspect, and consistency. For a while, I was doing the chording practice every day. I mean, I'd done that for like over a year or more before I did my meditation. I started doing that, practicing with chords. Now I only do it occasionally. Maybe it's because I haven't been in contact with as many people. Maybe I think in part also motivation factors, as I was saying. One of the things I used to do it as I was leaving in the morning to go teach or come to the office or just go out and do stuff. And as time wore on with the pandemic, we're doing this sort of tree-ish thing today. Don't know if I want to add my chords in. But that sort of fell to the side. Now I only do it like maybe once a week. Which is funny since I did a whole meditation album on it. And I do want to do another meditation album, but I haven't had that crystallized idea of what that would look like. Do I find that going by how I feel in the moment can be healing? To an extent, yeah. I find that my body tends to hold a lot, and particularly when I have really intense stuff that I just can't process. My body's like, hold it. We'll just hold it here in the muscles, or in the sphincter, or something, or and that can be problematic. What I have noticed is that I've had such strong, deep, troubling emotions that I tend to avoid going into deep meditation because I don't want to experience it every single. It's like seriously, every single time I go into a deep meditation, now I sob. Now I usually feel better after that, but there's like this avoidance of I don't want to feel that. I intend to cry today actually while I'm here. But it's been troubling, and people are like, oh, how you doing? And they want, I don't know if you experience this, but checking up with people, and I'm trying to, tell them good news at the same time, but it's been a year of a whole lot of not good, right? And I'd had several years prior to the pandemic that were troubling. I'd lost several friends that died, I'd lost family members that had died. I'd had friendships dissolved. And it just, geopolitical events aside, and then pandemic, it was just all so too much. Let me see if I can tilt this up for you to see that's kind of what I'm doing there. So it's pretty much ready to go whenever I want to start that ceremony. I will not do it on camera because it is super boring to watch. Um, and some of the stuff to thank my guides now is very private. Um, they don't want some of them may not want all their names known out there. Having people would be invoking them all the time and be like, ugh, who's this jack off or whatever. I don't know. See, now I can't monetize video. No, I was going to monetize this video. I should have been swearing the whole time. I'm glad that you find this relaxing. Um, I find that um, there is a lot of discomfort with people. Um, Not only, as I said, I have trouble sitting with my emotions. So people, when they're interacting, they don't want to hear about your tough stuff, right? They certainly don't want to hear about mine. I mean, I'm supposed to be here as the healer, right? As the one that gives uplifting news. And while I feel like perhaps we may come out of this and turn towards, I hope anyway, that we turn towards a different path, a more humane path, a more supportive path of ourselves and each other. You know, in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. And a lot of what we're grieving is the world that was, the life that was. Even if we weren't particularly happy, it was familiar and somewhat predictable. We could manage our fears around it because we were used to it. Um, and to have that gone with none of the assurances of the old, but also a lot of uncertainty about the new, and in a sense, having to reinvent ourselves and reinvent our lives around new restrictions. And now that we're here, going back, they're slowly lifting restrictions here, but still, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't quite, I'm like, I hope this it feels too soon, even though I've been pushing, pushing. I want to be able to get with people. Someone offered to take me out to eat, at a restaurant the other day, and I was like, it's too soon for me yet. You ask if my guides introduce themselves by their name. Not generally. The name is something that I ask for, so that I have, something I can call to uh, and put on. And I used to get really hung up. I was like, is that their real name, or are I just making that up? I don't care anymore. I call one of my guides Harvey. That is not his name. Um, I actually later found out what his name is, but I never use it. I just call him Harvey. Um, so, it'd be like, I want to, you know, I think I'll call you whatever. And if they correct me, that's fine. I'll go with whatever I get. But I used to obsess about, is this correct? And it became a real block, actually, to getting any information at all, because you're immediately going, oh, did I just make that up? Um, so, I mean, you have to play a little loose and, ask and see what comes to you, and, say, okay, well, I'll just call you that until further notice. Um, a name is a convenient label. I'll just put it that way. Um, but we are names, even though I believe that words have power, naming has power. We are also more than that. It is just a convenient placeholder for our energy. I hope that answers your question. But yeah, there is. It's been. I'm not gonna lie. It's been tough. I have been truly tested. Still being truly tested. Um, I've journeyed. I've gotten answers. I've been told things. Changing, get better here. Stay put for the time being. And I'm like, I want to get out. And at the same time, I'm afraid to get out. And I've been shamed for feeling that way as well. the whole no fear, live your best life. And I'm like, ugh, I just want to punch those people sometimes. It's maybe not what you might consider the spiritual response, but it is certainly an authentic one. I just sometimes I just want to reach out and slap people. So, I've had people like go, "Oh, you can't say that. Oh, that's not very spiritual." And my favorite response ever to somebody who was like trying to put me in the little spiritual box was, "I think you have me confused with Jesus Christ. I'm not Jesus Christ. I'm Thomas Moon Eagle." Um, and and even Christ chased people out of the temple with a whip. I'm like, yeah, I could probably resonate with that Christ. Let's see. Let's talk animal guides. I believe I know my spirit animal, the most vivid dream about this animal, and it was just obvious. Well, I mean, if you feel drawn to that animal, if you feel like that dream had that extra sense of dimension, why not? Why not try to work with that animal spirit? Um, you know, there are multiple ways that people would find out, what animal guide would be theirs or is trying to offer their medicine or their knowledge and teaching to them. And one of the ways that could happen is through dreams. Another is to do like ceremony and vision quest, or to do shamanic journeying, um, or to do deep meditative work. I mean, and that it just sort of slowly, or maybe some people even they're like, I just feel a resonance with this particular animal. It calls to me. I'm just obsessed. Some people might say I'm obsessed with it. Um, so there is no one way. There is no one right way. There is no one path up the mountain, and there is, you know, that is something I've had to learn, because I think shamanism is the end all be all. Right? I love like journeying, I love ceremony, but for other people, that really does not appeal to them at all. And they have a completely different way of doing it. And there are other practices that other people do, and they're really into. And I'm just, yeah, it doesn't grab me in the good place. And people are different, so they need different ways to access. And it can be really easy to be critical of other people's ways of accessing spirit or accessing truth or power or however you want to put it, meaning, purpose. But I would say that when you catch yourself doing that, just go, that just doesn't. That's just not the way for me. That's not appealing to my sensibilities, to my personality, and let people have their joy. Let people have their path. Unless they're hurting somebody, what difference does it make? Um, so, and that's the caveat. If somebody's spiritual path is oppressive to others, or um, you know, I've seen a lot of people put judgment onto things or put levels onto things. One of the problems that I have with, and I've talked about this before, and every time I do, I lose subscribers. So this might be the day. This might be your last subscription day. Is my problems with like law of attraction and ascension thinking or positive vibes only, um, is that it penalizes people for feeling their feelings and feeling the way they do. Um, and just this idea that we're all going to ascend to higher, well, those of us who are worthy, who have raised our vibration, will ascend to a place where we don't have the same limitations or challenges as everybody else. And I understand the appeal of ascension, of this idea of growth in the self. But a lot of times the way it is executed, a lot of ways that people adapt to it is they just want to cut out anything that makes them uncomfortable. I mean, hell, I've wanted to do that myself. It hasn't worked for me at all. Um, but or they separate people like, oh, if they're suffering, they've brought that on themselves, and so it really gets in the way of empathizing with others. Um, and I've had this conversation with a couple of my friends about it. About this, the problem I have with a lot of idealist spiritual ideals is that people make the idea more important than other people. And what I mean by that is just like what I said before. When people blame the victim of a tragedy or a trauma and say, oh, they've attracted that into their lives. You know, yes, sometimes we bring stuff on ourselves, it's true. But the suffering is real. And people just say, oh, you just need to vibrate beyond that level. And I think it's really disingenuous. And it's telling people, don't feel what you're feeling. Don't be you, because that's inconvenient for me and inconvenient for my ideals of how the world should work, which is really very cruel and unfeeling. At least that is how I've experienced it. Other people, they may not apply it that way, and if it works for them and if it's helped them, fine. But don't expect to put that lens on other people and just they'll say, oh, thank you. Yes, that helps immensely. No, it doesn't. Sometimes what people need is to just be in those feelings of grief and trauma and loss and sadness and just have someone say, they're there. It's okay. Or it's not okay. And, I'm here for you. And that's it. Um, and I've been guilty of trying to be Mr. Fix It. Oh, you're having a difficult emotion here. Let me just fix that for you. Um, as I, when I started getting to the level where I was getting more serious clients, people with more serious trauma come in, and they would cry in session, and I would feel initially I was very uncomfortable with this when this happened, like I'd done something wrong, and now I'm like, it's okay, that's crying is good, let it out, let it be, feel what that is. If it becomes overwhelming, ask it what it needs. All right, we've got more comments. Goes back to marketing. People don't fully explain the law of attraction. They make something it's really not, because for marketing purpose, it sounds better than when you put it into certain. Yes, law of attraction is really easy to market. It is, what I do is not easy to market because it is messy. It is messy and it is unpredictable because it deals with people and where people actually are, not where we hope that they would be. So, yes, law of attraction is very marketable because it has a very sexy, you can get rid of all of your problems if you just follow this, this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really work. Magic can do a lot. Don't get me wrong. But if it could solve all your problems, I wouldn't have any. Yeah, there is no one size fits all. I am also distrustful of the guru system. The whole idea when we elevate somebody on a platform, which is why I swear regularly on podcasts. No. Um, I just drop a couple F-bombs here and really, test the audience. No, I think it is when we stop looking at things critically. And I don't mean being, I don't mean in this sense of I'm just going to criticize everything. That's a different kind of critical. But examining and you want to take something to its conclusion, right? So what I've said I was in an argument once with somebody who law of attraction really did help them. It helped. They were in a bad situation. They'd had a really bad past, and focusing on those things really motivated them and helped them out of it. And helped them out of it. And I'm like, well, great, that worked for you, you know. But then they were applying it to, well, then everyone else should be able to do it, and it's a personal failing if they don't. And that's where I had a problem because a lot of people who, I don't want to say a lot of people, some people who seek out my help who've had also spiritual disturbances have also shared the common denominator of abuse of all different types. Um, and I find it incredibly cruel and manipulative to suggest that the people who have been abused as children or as adults, even, I don't care. You're making people responsible for other people's choices. So um, if you're abused, it's not your fault. If someone sexually abused you, it's not your fault. I don't care what you were wearing, what you said, where you were, what you had to drink. It's not your fault. And to say to someone that they attracted that is just the height of cruelty and gaslighting. And I mean, it makes me angry when I hear people say that. And, because my thing is like, okay, well, those children that have been sexually abused, shall we just say, trot them out? Okay, you just need to change your thinking so that you don't attract more of that. No, absolutely not. That is not okay. There, soapbox, descending from. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you have to, yeah, you've got to change your tactics depending on who is in front of you. And, you know, I don't I don't see how you can help someone if you don't have compassion for them and for their experience. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to understand everything about it. Um, you don't have to have experienced everything that everybody who comes and walks through your doors has experienced. Um, if you've experienced loss, if you've experienced, abuse of any type, and most of us have, it again in varying degrees. Um, you can you have an emotional touch point and blueprint within yourself to empathize with other people. And if you don't, you just flat out say, I have no pattern for that. And what you do is you just listen and then you ask. If you don't know, you ask, what do you need from me? You know, what is it? How can I support you? Um, People ask me questions all the time and I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. And I used to feel like I had to know the answer to it because, I'm in the psychic field, that I should know the answer to everything. No, I don't. And when I stopped pretending that I knew everything, which I haven't done since I was like a teenager, I don't think. Maybe early 20s. We'll see. Um, you know, it's funny because I actually got access to more information than before, because I was open to not knowing. All right, got another question. So, yeah, it's been, we've all said thoughtless things or platitudes to people, and we didn't know any better, hopefully, at the time. Um, and you don't always have to know how to comfort somebody. Um, and if you don't, that's not an unforgivable offense. Um, it's just, it's hard. It's hard being human. Um, it really is. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And a lot of us are doing the best we can. I used to say everyone's doing the best they can, but I don't really think that's true anymore. The last years have dissuaded me from that line of thinking. But a lot of us are doing the best that we can do, and that's going to vary from day to day. It's going to vary, how much energy we have. So I hope, I really do hope that you take something away from that. And I don't know if this live stream is giving you something that is useful. Um, for me, I was just testing the new Wi-Fi, and once I get going and speaking, uh, I can pontificate. It's really hard when I do podcast if I can't see the other person to know if like, oh, I'm rambling. It's like, so the best podcasters with me are people who keep me on target without cutting off my answer, because a lot of times people ask me an answer that is ask me a question rather, um, that I believe has context. And that's what I've learned over the years that I've done this, is that there aren't really simple, well, there are simple answers, but there's also context. So, you know, people ask me usually very broad questions. And before I answer, I want to put my answer in context, um, so that it can't, it's easily be misconstrued. Um, that is, because if there's something I have learned in my entire life, is a lot of times people apply much more meaning to my words than is actually there. Like they overlay something and assume I meant something what I have said, um, which is a call for me to be more clear, I guess. But I've tried to do that, and I've found that some people will still misconstrue what I'm saying, and at that point, I just let it go and let them construe what they're going to do, because um, I don't owe people an explanation. um, One of my teachers said, "Thomas, don't explain yourself." I was doing it, was trying to, make sure, I don't want to be. And she's like, "Thomas, don't explain yourself." She'd come out of, I guess, a career of a corporate career of high end negotiations, and she was saying this from a power perspective, that don't explain yourself. Um, you can clarify if people ask you questions, obviously, but just don't. If you start by explaining yourself, it makes you sound uncertain, and it gives away your power. So um, that has been something I try to latch on to, because I would always be explaining myself all the time just to make sure that nobody took. I was like, people are going to get offended, and people may unsubscribe from this video for some of the things I've said. I've noticed, like, actually my subscriptions have gone down every time I've done a live stream. They tend to go back up after I load up a new healing video. Um, but for a while, it was like really disappointing. That's like, oh, if I'm really authentic and in the moment with me, people don't like that and they unsubscribe. Oh well. um, I am not for everybody. I really don't want to be for everybody. That's a big burden, actually. And I don't. It's funny because a few months ago, I talked about this on Facebook, and whoo, the response is I had someone criticize my voice in one of my videos in the comment thread, like really in a nasty way. And normally I don't respond to that, but I was like, oh, I'm going to respond to this one. And the reason I did it was because of the way it struck me. I didn't go, oh, what's wrong with my voice? Which I would have done when I first started making YouTube videos. In fact, any criticism I got when I first started, I was like, oh no, is that true? Oh. Um, but rather than argue with them, I did want to respond to them, because I mean, my first response internally was like, what an asshole. Like, who says that sort of stuff to people? And you know, people get bored and they just comment, stuff to sound witty and cute and snarky or whatever. I get it. I've done it in the past. Not so much on YouTube videos, but on like Facebook posts and whatever. I don't do that as much anymore. Sometimes I do. Um, but not as much. Sometimes I'll type it and then I'll just erase it. I'm like, do I really? Does I want to send it out there? No. Uh, but my response was basically, I didn't argue with them. I said, yes, it's taken me a long time to learn to accept my voice as it is. Period. And they responded back to that, and it was like they backpedaled, and it was just like so. It was a lot of fun to watch um, them try to dig themselves out of their hole and end up digging themselves deeper, and knowing at the same time I was making them feel like shit. Uh, and that was my intent. And some people might say that's not very spiritual, and they might be right. And I also didn't care. Because it was like fun to me just like to hold the mirror up. I'm like, oh, so you're gonna be like that. Well, here's what you look like when you do that. And if I was gonna say, oh, there was a spiritual motivation behind it, which I'm not sure there was to like to show them, hey, you're being an asshole and you're being hurtful to people. And it didn't hurt me, but it could have hurt somebody else if they did, because they're doing it to me, they're doing it to other people, right? So I posted the picture of the comment and my response. People went berserk. They're like, they were like, I'm gonna beat that person up. And I was like, whoa, whoa, dude, it's handled. It. But I was like, I'm grateful that you're that protective. But really, Moon Eagle's got it handled right now. But thank you. If I really do have a problem, I'll let you know. Um, but so that was kind of satisfying. But also, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not hurt. I'm okay. I'm no, it's fine. I've handled it, and I made someone feel like shit. um, because it's okay to do that occasionally when someone needs it. Um, I remember somebody I went to school with, and they were kind of an asshole and kind of a bully. And then they went out with somebody who gave it back to them in stereo. And oh my gosh, they were so miserable. But after that, they became much more likable because they knew some things about themselves. They're like, yeah, I know I'm kind of an ass, and they became much more likable after that. So just you can be an ass sometimes and still be likable. So cut yourself some slack. I hope you do. And where are some other, like, I know there's like a couple more people, so somebody can comment on that before I start to wrap this up, because I should wrap this up. I don't want to use up all the bandwidth in the office forever and ever and ever. But yeah, does anybody else have anything they want to say or ask while you've got me here? I will try and actually schedule one of these. Um, Now that I know it works fairly well, because I do need to test it with the streaming software. This is just with YouTube Live. To schedule a stream, you have to use streaming software, which actually is harder on the computer, but seems to. I don't know why. You used to be able to schedule a stream ahead of time and just go live on YouTube. Now they require third-party software, which I have, but tends to heat up my computer and use up a lot of the CPU and the memory. I know extra techie you really tune into my channel for, because that's what it's all about. It's all about IT. It's good in some ways to be back, even if I'm not sure what I'm back to yet. This is really just my second week back at the office. I had like 2 clients over the phone. It would be 2 weeks ago. But last week was the first Friday I was back for like my Friday ceremony and journeying and doing all that stuff. I have been working uh, my medicine wheel journeys up through the chakras. I'm in the third eye. I'm almost done with the third eye. And just like every other chakra, it's been kicking me in the balls. Um, Marie. Yes, Marie just popped. She's in Europe, so it's later for her. Yeah, the reason you didn't know I had a live stream today is because I didn't announce it. I just sort of got on. I wanted to test out the internet here at the office since we got a new system. So that's why you didn't miss it. I just didn't announce it because I didn't know how it was going to go. If we were really clunky, I didn't want to push it. If it was going to go okay, I was going to see just who showed up. Thanks for showing up, by the way. Um, it was what I was saying. Oh yes, being kicked in the balls by the medicine wheel journeys. Um, because yeah. So to give you some context, I started doing the medicine wheel in each of the chakras. I started this in 2019, way back when, like early February 2019. I started in the root chakra. So what I mean by medicine wheels is I go to like the directions. Um, so the tradition I'm following is like the Carol, and I'm mispronouncing that, I know. There's a little apostrophe in there, and I can't quite get it right. Tribe in South America, descendants of the Incas. And their medicine wheel is different from the North American, a lot of the tribal systems in North America. Um, so it's not the sun bear medicine wheel. This is just, the cardinal directions, into which I've added the you know, above, below, within. Um, so there are guardians or spirits in each of those directions. And in the South American tradition, you start in the south, um, which in that case is that way, just behind me, in the way that this building faces. I don't know if you can see it, my altar in the office is in the south. And the reason it's in the south, besides that there's a convenient wall there that it could fit on, is that it is the place of healing. It's where our healing journey starts in that tradition. So they open their wheels starting in the south. Um, so I do south, go to visit that guardian, go to the west, go visit that guardian, get healing work done for each of the chakras, you know, north, east, then I go below, above, within. So the root chakra took from like February until October. Is when I finished that. That's how long the root chakra took. It had a lot of curses on it. Let's put it that way. And it was quite challenging, and I had a lot of physical symptoms. I've had physical symptoms from doing this work as I've worked up, but they've been different in each one and how they've come out. But when I did that one, I had a lot of threats to physical safety that I was dealing with. And then when I went up to the sacral chakra, which took almost as long as the root chakra, it was more about the feeling of being not supported and not accepted. I can't remember. I've written notes as when I got to the third chakra was interesting. I started to notice like what's changing in my external world more, as far as like I started working back in the studio and doing artistic work once I started in the third chakra. A heart chakra was really challenging emotionally. Um, and then throat chakra, I was doing more creative writing again. I'll talk about that in just a minute. And now here in the third eye, a lot of my fears and how they affect me and how they affect my body, and how my thoughts affect me have been front and center. So, like a lot of my fears, a lot of my paranoias, a lot of my phobias, all that's been coming into. So, like I said, it's been a kick in the balls every single chakra, and I still have one more to go. Yay! Uh, so, yeah, I'm glad the stream is working on your end too. I'm hoping that it's stable enough that I can even have a guest on, like I did one time, but not have them get kicked off every 5 minutes. Um, I, yeah, I'm gonna do another chakra journey today. This one to the above for the third eye. So I'm gonna go to the upper world, get some healing work done there. Um, and then probably next week I'll be doing the within. I'll finish that chakra and move on up to the seventh chakra. I had no idea it was going to take over 2 years to do these journeys, but it took it. Some things you have to take your time unless you want to go absolutely crazy. And I have done that before. I have overloaded my energetic system trying to reach some ideal, which is also why I have a problem with ascension, because you can go too fast and you can really hurt yourself. It is, yeah. Marie asked if it's important to go through the chakras in a particular order. Yes, from the bottom up. It's really important you get that root chakra in order before you start activating the ones up here. I can tell you that. Because it's like having a ladder that's not firmly on the ground, and you know all that entails. So you want to have a strong base to support what's going on up here. Um, you don't start building the pyramid at the top first. You start it from the base, and that is important. And that base chakra is just as spiritual as that seventh chakra. It's just a different lens and focus of systems, and from a different, standpoint. If you're talking about energetic medicine, um, those different areas, they're glands in each of those things going up. And so you want to, activate all of those glands and balance all those glands. And, these chakras also rule over the organs that are in their vicinity. So it's important from just a physical standpoint. You start down there, elimination, you know, you want to be able to eliminate and excrete and detox and release. Um, and then once you released a lot, you have energy to store. Well, I should say, room to store energy, to revitalize. So that's important. And as you go up, different things will come up. And I'm not saying like I'm completely done when I go through all seven. No, things have been brought to the surface. Some things have been released. Some things are at least moving. Um, but yeah, this is kind of what I was working on for my next book. Um, but I'm not quite sure how to write that, because I don't think like giving you the details of each journey is really all that interesting, for one. So I'm having to rethink how this book is going to go. I'm wanting to do, present that methodology and some of my observations of stuff that happened in each one, and the importance of each chakra, but also then do other journeys and get more informative stuff coming back, to put in the book. And I'm like, yes, it's not going to be a long book, because it's not like the rune book where like every journey gets reported. Like, no, there's going to have to be a lot more writing outside of this and conclusions drawn, and that's harder, and it's going to take longer, because I want it to be good. I don't want to just publish something. People have asked me if I want to teach a class in this, and I'm like, I don't know how you would, because like I said, it took me almost a year to do the root chakra. So I mean, I would be very dubious of doing even just one chakra in a weekend. I mean, you could do it from a journey perspective, but from a processing perspective, I think that might be a little irresponsible for me. Yeah, it seems interesting. It's sort of like, how do I write it? And what I find, I've actually been working more on creative writing fiction in the past year than I have on nonfiction, um, which has been a nice return. That started, right in here when I got to about the heart chakra and then on up. Um, Even intensify when I was in the throat chakra. I think, trying to think when I finished my draft of my first little short story. Um, it was somewhere in between the throat and third eye. And now I'm working on another one. Um, and I have ideas for more. So, maybe I'll be going in a creative writing direction for a bit. And, while I continue my healing work. Um, and I'm sort of like, well, do I abandon this book project? I'm like, I don't think I'm abandoning it. I think it's sort of like it's not quite clear what the shape of this book is going to be yet. I'll continue to do journey work on it. I'll continue to write my observations. Um, but with my first book, I had a pretty clear idea of what the structure of the book was going to be. An introduction, an explanation of what shamanism was, what energy work and magic was, some ethics around that, uh, learning about how to create sacred space, learning about how to find a power animal, because you need that for if you want to go on those journeys, and then the actual journeys, and then sort of a summation of like well now what do you do with this, and how was this for me, and what some other things that you can try. And so that was a pretty clear boom, boom, boom. Uh, this book, it'll have some of the same introduction uh, and these ideas, but it all started with like this horrible nightmare that I had a couple of years ago. That was just like truly it's one of those nightmares that I woke up from, and I was still in that feeling of the terror of it. And even a day or two later, I was still jumpy and traumatized from it. I was afraid to meditate. That's how bad that nightmare was. And it sort of kind of became the impetus of this, um, of the book, of like, yeah, I need to bring some light and singing up the sun. It happened very close to the winter solstice. Um, so this idea of bringing the light back is kind of where that, where the idea of this book is, waking the light in dark times. Very salient at the moment, very, applicable at the moment. I wish I was better at it. I have not. I have struggled along with you guys. So, you know, like as I said, I've said this on podcasts, I have struggled even with all the knowledge that I have, even with all the skills, training techniques, assistance I can call in from spirit. I have struggled. So, for someone who doesn't have access to that or doesn't know that they have access to that or hasn't tried, I can't imagine what that person's experience is like. It must be awful, you know. So Marie, you say that you paint the chakras. That's your way of looking at them. Yeah, I know some people who do some artistic, it's almost like a reading kind of thing where they color and they do the chakras. And I think, that's a good, again, people find their own way to it. And I think that's a good thing. But yeah, I wrote some dialogue last night for my latest short story. Um, and, I started a writing group with some friends, and uh, I think only one other person has come up with a draft so far that I've read, but we haven't gotten to meet yet because pandemic. Um, Very soon, all of us will have been vaccinated, and we can start thinking about, let's get together um, and like commit. I think like the writing group is very important because it's really easy to like, oh, I should write something today. I need to get on that scene. Oh, I need to start to visualize what that's going to look like, and just sit and watch YouTube. But if you know that in a week you have a writers group and you have to present something to them, it motivates you to like keep at it and like not take like me. 8 or 9 months to write a story. Because I used to churn them out a lot quicker. I mean, in college, I took several creative writing classes, and I would literally just I would come up with something and write it out. Boom, there it was. And I also didn't. There was not YouTube when I was in college, in the long, long ago. Um, I did not have high speed internet access either, so there were a lot fewer distractions. Um, you know, I can do this. At one point, I wanted to write a novel. Um, and actually, what was really nice is that a friend I sent my first draft off to read to get feedback from, and they want it to be a novel. And I was like, I'm not quite ready to commit to that yet. I'm still building this world. It's a made up world. Um, and part of the reason that first story took 8 or 9 months was because the world did not exist prior to that story. Um, Now it has somewhat of a shape. I'm supposed to get with a friend very soon. We're going to sit down and draw a map because we're to the point now where we actually need a map to reference things and be nice to know. Like, yeah, I can pick this up in vague directions here and there. That was okay in the first story. Oh, this is east of the city. This is here. Oh, we're going up to this district. There and yeah, the Crossways district. Forgot the name of the district. This is why I need a map. So that I can, it makes it easier to visualize. Um, but it's interesting, people think, oh, this is so new for you. I'm like, it's not really new. It's just been subdued for many years. I've been focused on other things. I kind of limited my writing to nonfiction, like either through my blog or my book, and thought, well, okay, I'm a nonfiction writer. But I actually really enjoy writing fiction. And so, there's no rule that says I can't do both. So, and again, this is not to say I'm not bragging, like, look what I did during the pandemic. See, I got all this done, Um, if I had been like dedicatedly writing this whole time or working in the studio, I would either have a whole new body of work in ceramics or in polymer or, whatever. Or I literally would have a novel if I had really worked at it and I knew how to write a novel, which I don't. Um, I don't have those things. I really don't. I've experimented when my energy level has allowed me to do so. When I have not, my mental and emotional trauma has not like weighed me down like stones, which has been a lot of the time. Which is why you haven't seen me on here as much. And so, if you're getting down on yourselves for not being productive or not having accomplished this lifetime goal while you've had extra time, if you have had extra time, I don't have kids. So if you had kids and you got anything done in the last year, give yourself a medal. I mean, no, seriously. I don't know how people with kids get anything done. That said, somebody once told me that I could write a book because I didn't have kids. And I got really upset with them because I'm like, I know a lot of people without kids who have not written a book. Thank you very much. Or you don't have one full-time job, so you were able to write a book. I was like, yeah, I know a lot of people with a full-time job who still have not written a book. I just had several part-time jobs in my own business, nothing big. That's me being snarky, by the way. Yes, Marie, it has been a very difficult year. I'm enjoying visiting with you. I'm so sorry that you got on late. We could have been chatting this whole time. But it has been over an hour, and the stream can't be that interesting to people. So I do need to wrap it up and actually do ceremony, do some journey work, get closer to being done with this third eye so I can move on to what fresh hell I have waiting for me in the seventh chakra. Oh god. It's you can tell I'm really looking forward to it. Um, I I think I am a different person from when I started this. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing at this point. Um, I'm hoping, I come out of this kinder, more understanding, um, gentler, not just with others, but with myself. Um, if there's something I've noticed, is like I rough handle myself. And, you know, in the past, I've been able to rough handle myself and be real gentle with other people. But I found that I really wasn't as gentle as I thought I had been. And while that was painful to acknowledge, I'm glad to have that so that because my intent is to be gentle with other people and and also to be gentle with myself because I knew for a fact I've been much gentler with others than I have been with myself. So that is something I hope that comes out of this work. Um, at the end of the day, we are left with ourselves and how we relate with ourselves. And I think that's the thing that magic does not fix. We have to do that ourselves. It can assist us um, in knowledge and becoming aware and even, part of changing, but we have to put in the effort to do that and find ways to be accepting. That's a different skill set than the energy working skill set. And it's one that I am lacking in, I think, or if not, I'm not nearly as practiced in. Let's put it that way. I'm not nearly as practiced in that set of things. And it's not something most of us are taught unless we had really awesome self-aware parents um, who had moved through and worked through their own trauma prior to raising us, which is really unlikely. um, I've known some folks that I see that that are just awesome parents now, and it's because they've done work to move through this stuff. So if you've done that, kudos to you. If you haven't done that, it's never too late to start. Um, that's what I would say, and energy work, healing work can be part of it, but you are the biggest part of that. Um, yes, we can only be human. That is all that is expected of us. That is true. That is very true. Well, thank you for joining me today. And I just want you to know I love you very much. And I hope that you find some peace and blessings and healing in your life. And hopefully soon. So until next time, peace and blessings.